On today's Locked On Thunder podcast, we're going to dive into that frustrating loss against the Charlotte Hornets on Thursday, what we've learned about the Thunder since losing Pokusevski and Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, and how the Thunder can counteract these losses with their rotation. We'll talk about it all on the Locked On Thunder podcast on Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Thunder, your daily Oklahoma City Thunder podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Let's get it going on the Locked On Thunder podcast on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. I am your host, media member, and editor-in-chief over at thunderousintentions.com. Rylan Styles, you can follow me on Twitter at Rylan_Styles. Follow the show on Twitter at LOThunderPod. Email the show, LOThunderPod@gmail.com. On today's show, we're going to dive into that frustrating loss against the Charlotte Hornets. What went wrong without Poku, without JRE, and how this Thunder team can try to bounce back from this, and how they lost this game in disappointing fashion to the Hornets. So a lot to dive into today. Let's start, of course, with this show being brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this year with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. We start, that we always do, with our game overview. Chet Holmgren, Ousmane Dieng, Poku, JRE, all out. Lindy Waters was on a G League assignment, and Darius Bazley did not play. So the Thunder were down a lot of players and a lot of impactful players, and this was the first game that we saw the Thunder play without having Chet, Poku, or JRE, so without having a center at all. Like, the Thunder are already operating as a small team this year, but they're extremely small without those three players. And then Ousmane Dieng also hurt. That hurts a lot as well. For the Thunder starters, it was SGA, Josh Giddey, Lou Dort, and then both Jaylin Williams. And that was the same five players that had the most minutes in this game. So how did the Thunder lose this game? And it was a very frustrating loss. Because when you're heading into this game, it was just announced that OKC was going to be on national television to the public, released a podcast yesterday talking about how they were going to be on national television, how important that is. Go back and listen to yesterday's podcast about that discussion. So you're going to be on national television again on January 10th against the Heat. You're a game out of the play-in with a really good strength of schedule coming up, where the Thunder are rated as like the sixth lowest strength of schedule. And the Timberwolves are fading a bit. The Warriors don't have Steph Curry. You're only a game out, and you're playing the Hornets, and this should be another win, right? Wrong. Tough game to lose in Charlotte. Mark Williams goes off, 7 for 7, 17 points, 13 rebounds, 2 assists, 2 steals, 2 blocks. The Hornets missed 2 shots at the rim. Yeah, they missed 2 shots at the rim all game long. The Hornets were a plus 10 points in the paint. They had 66 points in the paint, but it felt like they had a lot more. The Hornets were also plus 9 in fast break with 15 fast break points. OKC had 8 more second chance points, but the Hornets were plus 11 in the rebounding column. OKC had 5 fewer turnovers than the Hornets. However, the Hornets had more points off of those turnovers, 22-13. OKC shot 42, 30, and 85. The Hornets, their big difference maker, is shooting 54% from the floor. They only shot 1 percentage better than you from 3, and at the free throw line, they shot a dreadful 65%. But they just could not miss from the floor because they were dominating so well inside. The Hornets had 7 players in double figures. LaMelo Ball had 27 points, 10 rebounds, 9 assists, a steal, 2 blocks, shot 60% from the floor, 50% from 3 on 10 attempts. PJ Washington had 25, Plumlee had 14. We talked about Williams earlier. The Thunder lost this game because they didn't play perfect. And the Thunder shows you their margin of victory and their margin of error is very, very thin. Now, whenever I point out what went wrong, this is not an indictment on these players forever or a terrible thing that they've done. It's just with the way that this roster is constructed, with the way that this team has to try to win games, everybody has to be perfect. And so whenever Lou Dort does not defend up to his standards, does not defend at an elite level against LaMelo Ball, you're going to lose. When Isaiah Joe only shoots 1 for 4 from 3, and that's the only impact he makes offensively, despite having 2 plays down the stretch of this game drawn up for him at a timeout and had wide open looks that he missed, you're going to lose this game. You know, whenever the Thunder are missing Jeremiah Robinson-Earl, Poku, and Chet and have no rim protection, you're going to lose this game. They lacked execution on offense. They were missing some great looks. They did not have those energy-giving plays and those hustle plays that you're used to. They missed a few too many long rebounds that they need to corral just due to their lack of size. You have to get those ones because you can't always bang bodies down low. And the biggest thing is that they had a formula, but they didn't follow it. It's like having a great recipe, but you missed a step. So yeah, the first half was back and forth, but by halftime, thanks to a buzzer beater 3 by Muscala, the Thunder led the game at halftime. Anytime the Thunder lead a game going into the break, it's a win. It's a massive win because you factor in that they're the best team in the third quarter in the NBA. And so if they can lead at the halftime mark, and then they dominate the third quarter, then it comes down to surviving those non-SGA minutes up into the 7-minute mark and then going from there in the fourth quarter. However, you held the lead at halftime, and then you got beat in the third quarter 28-24, and you lost the fourth quarter 36-29. That's the difference. It was all in front of you. Like you had your perfect storm. You had the Hornets right where you wanted them on the road, and it didn't come to fruition. It didn't happen for you. There were 8 lead changes, 7 ties. You came back from down 10 points. The Hornets grew a 10-point lead, and OKC never had their lead go past 3. And the Thunder lose 121-113. This is yet another game that OKC wants back. The Pelicans game last week where you battle back from down 20 points and lead by 8 in the fourth quarter and still lose in overtime. You want that one back. They didn't have BI, they didn't have Zion. You want this one back in Charlotte. A bad, bad, bad Hornets team that outplayed you in every facet yesterday. This was a bad Kenny Hustle game. This was a bad Aaron Wiggins game. This was a bad Muscala game. This was a bad J. Will game. This was a bad Isaiah Joe game. This was a bad Eugene Marui game in 4 minutes. You didn't play Baisley. And so again, it's not an indictment on these players specifically because everyone is warranted to have an off night. Everyone is granted and is going to have an off night. You have to plan for these nights, right? Like there's going to be 5 or 10 nights a year where your guys just do not have it for whatever the reason. There's going to be 5 or 10 nights a year where your guys play so far above their skill level, it's unbelievable. And then what do you do in the middle? What do you do, in the middle of those two extremes? It just so happened that you got those extremes where you had a bad Kenny game, you had a bad Wiggins game, you had a bad Muscala game, you had a bad Isaiah Joe game, all on the same night. You had a bad Lou Dort defensive game. Like for Lou Dort standards, he did not play up to his standards on the defensive end against LaMelo Ball. Going under screens early on, letting him get hot and comfortable, shooting the ball. Like by Lou Dort standards, he didn't have a good game. And that could be for any reason. Just was not ready to play today. Mark said on Tuesday he was under the weather. Maybe he's still under the weather to this point. That's pretty common to be under the weather for 3 straight days. And it's not a long-term indictment on anybody, but it's why you lost this game. Because for the Thunder, they don't have the horses, they don't have the depth, they don't have the experience to overcome whenever half the roster is not playing well. And it's unfair. It's unfair to the players, but they have to play perfect every night if they want to win. And so they can still play competitive. They can still have fun games. This was still a competitive game to watch, but they can't win it unless they play perfect, unless they execute. They didn't do that. And it all set up for them to execute. Like I said, leading at halftime, should have had a great third quarter like always. But one little kind of detour from what you're used to, like the third quarter thing, not losing the third quarter, that little detour was enough to throw off the winning calibrations for OKC because of the stage of the team that they're in. And now you have an unexpected loss in terms of the standings watch. And we've mentioned that January 16th will be judgment day for this roster and for this team and kind of seeing where they're at. This was not calculated in the plans for that. You got to make a couple up now because you dropped that to the New Orleans Pelicans. That should have continued your winning streak. You dropped this to the Hornets that should have extended it. I mean, if you don't blow that fourth quarter lead against New Orleans, you're on a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 game winning streak, and then this would be 6 if you took care of business in Charlotte. So now you got to steal a couple. Going to play Philadelphia on New Year's Eve. Who knows what their situation will be, because Philly will be on the second night of back-to-back. Who will they play on the second night of back-to-back and on a holiday? Who will they play in OKC? Play Boston. 2 tough games. This can easily be a 3-game losing streak. This can easily be where you lose 4 of your last 5. And then the day after you play Boston, you fly to Orlando and play a surging Magic team. Then come back home and beat Washington. Should take care of business against Washington. And then Dallas, Miami. Now on TNT, that Miami game. And then you have Philadelphia again in Philly. Chicago again in Chicago. And then at Brooklyn. So you're judging them January 16th on how they handle this stretch. And that Philadelphia game, like we know Saturday's out for Jerry and Poco. That Philadelphia game in Philly is on the 12th. That's what? A week from Saturday or 2 weeks from Saturday. If Jeremiah Robinson-Earl is still a ways away and not moving like a basketball player yet, according to Mark, he won't be able to play, 10 days from Saturday or whatever it'll be. 12 days, I guess. So you're going to have to weather the storm of Joel Embiid against no bigs twice. It's an awful time for the injuries no matter when they happen, but this is a really awful time for the injuries. Whenever you're about to take on Embiid twice, you're about to play Porzingis, you're about to play Bam, you're going to play Christian Wood, who's playing excellent. Nick Claxton's going to feast. It's going to be tough, and we'll see where this record looks like here on January 16th. But I do still think that this team will play fun, competitive basketball. And in this season, that's kind of what it's all about, despite wins or despite losses. And with this team, they've kind of always done the opposite of conventional wisdom in the sense of, we think, okay, right off this game against the Hornets, they're going to beat the Hornets. Right off this game against the Rockets, they're going to beat the Rockets. Right off this game against the Pistons, they're going to go to Detroit and beat the Pistons. We think that, then they lose. And then we think, boy, it'd be really something if you could just somehow eke out a split against Portland in the baseball series. They sweep Portland. They've had wins like that where it's unexpected wins. They've beaten Dallas in overtime in Dallas. Beating Toronto, beating New York, in New York. They've had these wins where it didn't look like they'd be able to do it. They didn't have Gideon SG against Memphis, and they beat Memphis. Of course, Shaw got ejected, so that helped matters. So they've lost some games they shouldn't. They've won some games that they, on paper, shouldn't. So they could come out Saturday and have a whole new identity defensively, playing some sort of trapping and zone defense on the low block on Embiid or whatever, and it could work to perfection. And they might beat Embiid. Who knows? This team is still going to be very much worth watching, and so don't let this one frustrating game sway you. But these are the reasons why things did not break their way on Thursday. Coming up, let's talk about how great Josh Giddey was. Let's talk about Jay Will's first extended run in the NBA. But first, I want to say right now, our good friends over at NHTSA. So you're hanging out with some friends, you put a few back, and a few become a few too many. As the evening comes to an end and people start to head out, you think of calling for a ride, but nah, you live nearby, you can make it home, it's no big deal. What's the odds that you get pulled over anyway? And even so, what's the worst that could happen? Your insurance goes up, you lose your license, you lose your job, you total your car, you kill someone. Everyone knows about the risk of driving drunk. The results are tragic and oftentimes deadly. However, that still does not stop everyone from getting behind the wheel while under the influence. That's why police officers are out there right now looking for impaired drivers on our roads to save lives. So, if you think you're okay to drive after a few drinks, think again. Plan it safe and plan ahead. Get a ride. It's only one mistake to change your life or someone else's forever. Drive sober or get pulled over. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast. On the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Thank you so much for making us your first listen every single morning, every single day. We're here for you, talking Thunder basketball. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Sports Today podcast. They have you covered for everything around the world of sports in 30 minutes or less every single day. But Josh Giddey was excellent today. 21 points, 10 rebounds, 7 on the defensive end, cleaning up that area down low. 3 assists, should have had like 10 assists the way he was passing the ball. Just guys could not come through with buckets. He had a steal, only had 3 turnovers. There was a few areas that really impressed me. Let's circle back to the rebounding. The rebounding stuff was great, and he's been doing this all year long. But a Thunder team that has no bigs in general, and then loses Poku, and then loses JRE, it's even more so important. You need Josh Giddey to end possessions by scrapping for rebounds, by tapping them out to his teammates, by going and soaring in and getting them, by corralling long ones, off of a carom miss. You need Josh Giddey to help you end possessions. He's a lengthy, smart player that understands the trajectory of where the ball is going to come off the rim. Like, it's a really intense skill to have, that rebounding knack, and Josh Giddey has it. He understands how to use his body to go up and contest rebounds without getting loose ball fouls. Like, he's really good at it. And that's been one of the best skill sets the Thunder have had. There's been many close games where Josh Giddey saves the game, and you do not win the game without Josh Giddey creating a possession by going up there hard and getting a rebound, or saving a possession and giving you another shot at life by corralling a terrible miss on the offensive end and giving you a second chance look. He's been doing it all year, and it was really impressive in this one, because in this one, he had absolutely no help in terms of like guys down there that can actually box out or take up a body or take up attention as a 7-footer. Like, Poku's going to draw some attention down there around the rim. There wasn't really anyone there to draw away attention at the rim this time, and he still got 10 rebounds, 7 on the defensive end, and kind of made it happen in this one, and he has all season long. What I really like from him in general, especially in this game, is that he attacks downhill, really gets down there as an aggressive but poised driver. The floater was working for him, but it was also more contact initiating too from him, where he took the contact, handled it very well, got to the free throw line, and was able to shoot 7 times at the line. And as I've said, all since I've taken over this podcast, like, the difference in your scoring tier, whether you're a 5-point per game scorer, 10-point per game scorer, 15-point per game scorer, 20, and so on and so forth, is how much you get to the free throw line. He got there 7 times, the same amount as SGA yesterday, and he knocked down all 7 of them. That is exactly what you're looking for when you're looking at Josh Giddey's scoring upside, and how it improves is by getting to the free throw line whenever you get downhill. And then defenses are off balance. If you're attacking downhill so strong like Josh Giddey can, are you going to pull up shy of the defender and pull up shy of the contact with the floater? Are you going to barrel into the defender and try to draw that contact and go to the free throw line? Are you going to do a mixture of where you're attacking hard, but then you pull up at the very last second and lob it up to a rolling big whenever the Thunder eventually can add those guys that can do that to this team? There's going to be so many possibilities for this team to thrive with Josh Giddey on the floor, and he's been really excellent in December and just continues that stretch. He'll have one more game in December. We'll see if December Giddey can continue on Saturday. Now, in this game, I want to talk about J-Will, his first extended minutes as an NBA player. So, J-Will has played predominantly in the G League. Tuesday, he played against the Sioux Falls Skyforce. I was there, sitting at the scores table to witness history for J-Will's first career triple-double. He's been excellent in the G League. Excellent. And I know that 99.999% of fans don't watch G League games, don't care about them. They might see a highlight on social media, might see a repost of a score graphic, but beyond the triple-double, he was just really good in the G League. In this game, first career start, he goes 0 for 5 rebounds or 10 rebounds or whatever, and an assist and a block. He just did not play up to his standards, and it did not play up to his ability in the G League, so to say. Like the G League stuff didn't translate. And so with Jay Will, who had 10 rebounds, I just think that for him, it was a lot of nerves. It was a lot of the game going too fast, needing to slow down. Because he got 10 rebounds, an assist, a block, but the game was moving too fast for him. He had 5 fouls, but he can do it. In the G League, he showed such better body positioning than what he showed you on Thursday. He did a much better job of walling up at the rim without fouling than he did on Thursday. He set harder screens than he did on Thursday. He created more space in the offensive end, both as a passer and a facilitator, which you saw a glimpse of on his 1 assist to Trey Mann in the fourth quarter. You saw a glimpse of that, but it was every possession in the G League. Every possession he would be creating space with these triple handoffs, with these screens, with his gravity as a high post playmaker. And I truly believe that a lot of it was just nerves, timid, overthinking the game. I'll never know that for a fact. Like I wasn't in Charlotte to ask him after the game, or I don't know if he was even available after the game, but I wasn't there to ask him. And it's a tough question to ask anyway. But it just seemed like it was nerves because he can play a lot better. And like the stuff that he can do better is independent of what's happening on the floor. He understands where to be positioned on the floor. He just wasn't there yesterday. And I think it was a lot of that. The game moved too fast. He was too nervous, trying to adjust to the speed and size that, the NBA brings versus the G League. And I think that he'll be better as each game goes on. I think that he'll settle in. I think that he can be a really good backup big man in this league. Now, the problem is the confidence thing, right? So you go out there, it's your first time getting extended run. You get 24 minutes of true action, like non-garbage time. This is your action. And he wasn't very good. Now, Joel Embiid comes to town. Life gets no easier whenever you're guarding Joel Embiid. So that can be a very bad game no matter what Jay Will does. Like, Jay Will might play perfect defense and Joel Embiid might have 30 points. So on paper, you view that as a very bad game. And then as your confidence starts to spiral at that point, the Thunder can't afford to lose Jay Will. They need all the help that they can get down there. But I really believe that after this game, I would assume the message to Jay Will today and tomorrow morning before this game against Philadelphia was, hey, we believe in you. We saw what you could do in the G League. Just go do that. Don't try to do too much. Don't try to be somebody that you're not, but just relax. And it just did not seem like he was relaxed against Charlotte. Hopefully, he plays better because he can, and you'll see it whenever he does. And we'll see how he handles Joel Embiid. But I think that the most interesting part about this game was that the Thunder were so bad at paint defense, at rim deterrence, at just defense in general. And Mark tried Jay Will, who didn't have a great game. Mark tried Muscala, didn't have a good game. Mark tried Wiggins, didn't have a good game. Mark tried Omarui, didn't have a good game in 4 minutes. Mark tried Kenny Hustle, didn't play well. Like this was the first non-good Kenny Hustle game. There's no other options, and he doesn't try Bazley. The Hornets missed 2 shots at the rim. Bazley is an elite level defender, and they didn't try Bazley. They can switch 1 through 5. And I get it, Bazley's not good offensively, but this team was not really in a groove offensively at all. So why not try it for his defense, as they did that first time that the Spurs came to OKC. So not Tuesday, but the time before that the Spurs came to OKC. The Spurs were dicing through the lane. They were carving up the Thunder in the paint. They were scoring at will at the rim in the first half. Second half, Bazley comes out there and plays a chunk of minutes and gets the Thunder back on track. He could have done that again against Charlotte. This is yet another sign to me that it's over for Bazley in Oklahoma City. And the Thunder want it to be over. Bazley wants it to be over, I'm sure. And it's just time to see what he can do at a change of scenery. Because if you're not going to go to Darius Bazley in this game, when you have no answers, you have no other answers to defend at the rim and to defend the Hornets at all, the worst offense in the NBA put up 121 points on you. You have no answers for what the Hornets are doing. Specifically down low, you have your springy, athletic, elite-level defender by the numbers in Bazley sitting on the bench getting another DNP CD. Then you're never going to try him. There's never going to be a scenario that he fits better to getting minutes. You don't have Poku. You don't have Jerry. You don't have Chet Holmgren. You don't have Ousmane Dieng. Every other big that you played was not playing good. There will never be another perfect storm that results in Bazley minutes than what we saw Thursday. And Thursday resulted in 0 minutes. And so, it can continue to be said that, that's just part of how they operate. They're just trying to get minutes to everybody. There's been times where Wiggins didn't play. There's been time where Eugene didn't play. There's been time where Muscala didn't play. That can continue to be said. And they can continue to switch it up where Saturday, Bazley might play 20 minutes. And there's a good chance that Saturday against Embiid, Bazley will play 15 minutes or whatever, and we'll try to all recant what we've said today about Bazley. But no matter what, it's over. Because you needed this win in terms of keeping the positive momentum going. You were a game back at the play-in. We've seen how obtainable it is to leap over Minnesota and to try to leap over Utah if they start fading, and try to leap over the Warriors without Curry. And you got that huge boost of motivation, or huge boost of rejuvenation from your fan base for the national TV game. You needed this win in Charlotte against a bad team, and you didn't even try Bazley whenever you ran out of options of what to try. So whatever is said, or however many minutes he plays from now on, I think don't matter. I think that his time in Oklahoma City is over. I think that he will not be on this team next year. I said that last month as well, but this was just another hit to Bazley's career in OKC. Like I've been saying this for a couple of weeks now. You can go back and find a podcast I did all about this topic, about Bazley not being in OKC next year. But Thursday solidified it. There is no more quabbling. There's no more what ifs. It's over. It's simply over, because you needed that win. You really needed it in terms of if you want to make this play-in push. You didn't try Bazley, which is the only thing he can provide you is better rim protection, better defense than Jay Will, better defense than Omarui, and then better than what Kenny and Wiggins had at that specific night. On that specific night, he could have been a better option. And he didn't go to him. So it's no longer we're just working everybody in, or there's still going to be moments for Bazley. There's still going to be time for Bazley. There's no more time. Independent of how many minutes he plays on Saturday, it's over. It's over long-term for Bazley. We'll talk coming up about Trey Mann, about SGA, and some more news and notes on this game coming up. But first, I want to tell you right now about our good friends over at Rocket Money. Folks, Rocket Money is incredible. They're our good friends, and it's the same great company that you're used to under the name Truebill, but now it just goes by Rocket Money. And what Truebill does, which is now known as Rocket Money, it is an app that you plug in all your subscriptions to, and you tell them what you're subscribed to, so Netflix, Hulu, etc., and it lays it all out there for you, and then you tell them what apps you don't want anymore, because we've all been there, right? We sign up for a 7-day free trial to read one article, or we sign up for a month trial to listen to one song, or watch one show, whatever the case is, and then we forget about it. We forget to turn off auto-renew. We forget that it's even an option for us, that we even have the account at all, and it slips by us in the bank statements, right? And so you look up, and 7 months have gone by, and they've charged you over $200. You've never watched the dang thing at all. They can catch those things at Truebill, which is now known as Rocket Money. So make sure you go over to Rocket Money right now and go there to rocketmoney.com/LockedOnNBA. That's rocketmoney.com/LockedOnNBA. rocketmoney.com/LockedOnNBA. They can save you up to 72,000 billion, trillion, quadruple million dollars. Not that much, probably, to be honest with you. You probably have not racked up that many streaming services over time, to be honest. But it can be 720. They can save you on average. Their average person that tries this platform out, they do save $720 per year. So that's a large chunk of change. So go over there right now to truebill.com/LockedOnNBA, truebill.com/LockedOnNBA. Now go to rocketmoney.com/LockedOnNBA. We're back on the Locked On Thunder podcast, on the Locked On Podcast Network, your teams every day. Let's continue talking about this game against Charlotte. I thought that this was Trey Mann's best game, and I know you're going to look at that and say 1 for 9. That can't be his best game. This season, though, it was all the good sign. 17 points, 3 rebounds, 2 assists. He had some electric plays at the rim, the post or dunk, the floaters, the layups, the up and under moves, just everything about his play around the rim was electric. He just needs to find it from 3. But here's the thing. He went 1 for 9 from 3, but he kept shooting. I tweeted this out last night. There was a play in the fourth quarter that really caught my eye last night. I tweeted out about how SGA made this great behind-the-back pass to Tre Mann, set up a wide-open Tre Mann three. The shot didn't go in, but the shot went up. And it's great on twofold. One, SGA trusts Tre Mann to take that shot after going 1 for 8 to start the game. Two, Tre Mann trusts himself to shoot the shot. So he's got some of that confidence back. He's got some of that, groove back of, I'm going to take this shot. I can make this shot. And so you like to see that. It was a really good game from Tre Mann. Let's talk SGA. 28 points, 5 assists, 3 rebounds, 2 steals, 47% from the floor. And like I said in the first segment, it's not fair. It's not fair and it's not right. I'm just saying, for the Thunder to win games this year, you need SGA to be elite, electric, and unfair greatness each night. And 28 points on 47% shooting from the floor is really, 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 really good. But you needed excellent greatness to win this game against the Hornets because everyone else didn't do their part. There was not. They really missed their connector in Pokusevski in the offensive end. They missed their complementary offensive weapons. Those guys didn't step up, on a complementary piece. So those guys didn't step up, and then then SGA didn't have an unworldly game. He just had a really, 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 really good game, and so it results in a tough loss to Charlotte. But SGA was still awesome in this one. He's still battling through, I think, a few dings on the old car after that fall against New Orleans. Like, you still see him kind of grab at his back a little bit, it seems like, and he's wearing these huge pads to try to protect himself. So credit to him for just gutting all that out. Also, some notes real quick. Lou Dort mentioned about the defense, but one thing that was great was the three-point shooting. 5 of 7 tonight, probably his best three-point shooting game of the year. And then Jaylin Williams out of Santa Clara. He was really good. It's a lot of the same stuff, so we won't drag on about it. He just needs to shoot more. He needs to get more aggressive offensively. He needs to take over more as a player. Mark has said that. We've said that, watching him as fans and media. It just needs to happen eventually. But one thing that has been really good for J-Dub, and we'll talk about this more, his elite level putbacks. That is a true skill. That is hard to time, of knowing where the ball is going to come off, knowing when to jump and to be able to get that putback down, and getting those points for your team. And Synergy grades him out as an excellent putback player. He gets 1.5 points per possession on those attempts. Great job for J-Dub, and he got another putback slam in this one, I believe off of a Lou Dort miss to set up the putback. Bet of the day was OKC plus 2.5. Hornets covered that, obviously. MVP of the game, I thought that Josh Giddey deserves MVP. So here's how Locked On Thunder will work coming up. Subscribe for free across all podcasting platforms, including YouTube. Monday, Sixers recap. Tuesday, New Year's resolutions for every player on the roster. Wednesday, Celtics recap. Thursday, Magic recap. Friday, mailbag podcast. So a lot lined up for you over there, Locked On Thunder, on any podcasting platform that you can find, including on YouTube. So until Monday, be good and be good to one another.